So I'm going to turn it over to Bruce.
Awesome. Thank you, Milan, and thanks everyone for being here. Um, I want to just start out sharing a little bit about myself and where I come from. If you and Milan as well and her experience, but if you were on the last call with Brett, you know that he talked about how I started my career as an agent. And going through the process, I had an opportunity just yesterday, I think it was with Chris, to kind of walk through some of those processes of what life was like as an agent. I loved being an agent. One of the things that was awesome about it for me is the opportunity to sit down with clients and get to know them at such a deep level and to get to know their financial situations and get to know about their families and their goals and what they've done to achieve their success and what they were doing to protect that success that they had achieved. And as a young man, I learned a lot um, for myself through that process of their success. It wasn't all perfect. Some of the things I didn't like about it was I didn't like that my compensation was always changing. Every year, I would achieve different levels of success in the company, and every year they would look at and my boss would sit down with me and say, "Hey, you made a little bit too much money last year, and so we're going to adjust the compensation on all these products." And it was never adjusted up. And what they did adjust up is my goals. So how I reached the top levels of compensation always got harder, and what I got paid for doing so got less. I didn't like that. I also didn't love that as I was working with these clients and I got a chance to see what they did to create wealth. I found myself asking what I was doing to create wealth. And, I was a commission-based sales rep. So I was, as my boss told me at the time, I was only as good as my last sell. And as awesome it was to have the highs of selling that product and getting that commission, I knew the next day I had to go to work or I wasn't making any money. And it was really difficult for me to take vacation. It was difficult for me to be out of the office because if I wasn't working, I wasn't getting paid. And that was a struggle for me to figure out. And so I wanted more, and in my career, I ended up I was living in the Bay Area at the time. I ended up leaving the financial services industry and went into building businesses because I thought that would solve both those problems for me. It would allow me to control my compensation and it would allow me to create residual income. I learned some really important principles and I want to talk about those principles through the next couple of minutes here. And then I want to explain why we're different at annuity.com and why we're different than any other FMO or IMO that's out there and what we're doing to help you solve some of those same problems that I felt and saw when I was a young agent trying to do this. So let me start by seeing if I can share my screen here. This is always questionable on whether or not I can get this to work exactly right, but we're going to give it a shot. All right, can you see that okay?
Yeah.
So I'm going to jump right to this. Basically, what I've been talking about is this concept of leverage versus non-leverage. And and what I started to realize as an agent myself is that I didn't have leverage. I was an employee first, and then I was a self-employed person, a commission-based person. And when I started as an employee, I knew I didn't have leverage, and I knew immediately I needed to get to a place where I could control my destiny more. And I thought that was by being a commission-based sales rep. And when I moved to being a commission-based sales rep and I became more self-employed, I thought that was going to give me the leverage that I sought in my life, the ability to maximize my earnings and do some of those things. But what ultimately I found is that I was limited by time. As I mentioned, I couldn't go on vacation or I didn't make any money. I couldn't not be in the office or I didn't make money. I couldn't not be making calls or I wasn't making money. If I wasn't working, I wasn't making money. And that is not a point of leverage. And so, what I attempted to do by leaving was to go create businesses and do be an entrepreneur in an effort to create that leverage. But that's not something that everybody knows how or is capable of doing. And so, as Brett and I and Milan and Kevin and others looked at this opportunity, we basically said, hey, how can we create an opportunity for people who are in this self-employed bucket over here of being a commission-based salespeople? How can we let them do what they're best in the world at, which is meeting with clients and sharing products, and at the same time unlock the right side of this equation and get them out of the concept of linear thinking? And so we came up with a couple of different things. One, we immediately came up with this concept of, well, if you're going to come with annuity.com, we're going to give you the opportunity to be an agency owner. Brett put the John D. Rockefeller quote in his presentation of I'd rather earn 1% of a lot of people's efforts than 100% of my own. And that is at the heart of what we thought about and the way that we can help you create leverage to where you can still do your personal production, you can still be self-employed, you can still have all of that control that you want in your life, but we can also unlock the opportunity for you to earn off of other people's efforts. The other thing we wanted to do was give you the opportunity to become a company owner. And so those are the two things that we're going to talk about in a lot more detail today. So I want to touch on a few other things just to make sure we have a baseline that we're all familiar with. At annuity.com, you earn full street. Now, I thought this was just a given where I had come from in the industry, but more and more I find it's not. I find that people are coming from IMOs and FMOs and they're like, I I thought I was earning full street there. Now I know I'm earning full street. We're completely transparent about this. So we will tell you exactly what street is on a product. We will show you the verification that when you get paid what we said you were going to get paid. We'll also tell you what the overrides are on products because that's really important to um, one of the things that we're going to talk about here. So you'll have complete transparency when you come with us to know every product, what it pays from a street standpoint and what it pays from an override standpoint. But you get paid the full street for what you do. We also have this amazing um, product called Cap the Company, where top producers get to keep all the marketing overrides. So you get the full street plus all the marketing overrides if you're producing more than 5 million a year in sales. Now, you get the overrides on everything over the 5 million. So that's a key point of that. But if you're a large producer, you'll make more money here than you can make anywhere else by the 1 or 2% deals that you're getting, because we'll give you everything that is made here. We also have a number of, I should change this to be performance pathways. And what that means is that we have different pathways depending on your experience level and your readiness. So our team selling pathway is the opportunity for new agents to come in, use our marketing system, develop leads, and develop a process of closing business and doing it with an experienced agent to help them along the way. So if you're new to annuities, which some people are coming from the life space or the Medicare space, and you're new to annuities, we have a pathway to help you learn about annuities as you go rather than think that you've got to learn it all. Now, the two things we're going to really talk about in more detail, and really the big one is the Agency Builder program. This is the opportunity for you to earn off of other people's efforts. And when you help bring people to annuity.com, we will help you to support them and participate in their success. And so that's what the Agency Builder program is built around, is that as you support and help people be successful, you get to participate in that success with them. And it is a core component of what we believe and what we do. And then obviously the Agency Builder program. So how does, or the ownership program, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit here. So how does the Agency Builder program work? Well, it's actually it can feel complicated, but as Brett says, this is not a commission program, it's a compensation program. What's the difference between a commission program and a compensation program? Well, a commission program is something that pays commission. You sell a product, you earn a commission. That's a commission program. A compensation program is more involved and gives you the opportunity to get compensated for various levels of activity and support that you help create. So, the very first thing that happens when you join annuity.com, you immediately, whether you've recruited anybody or not, you immediately become what we call an agency owner. Now, you may be the agency owner of just your own personal agency and may never recruit anybody, and that's totally okay. That's up to you. But if you actually help enroll people, if you go talk to people about what annuity.com is doing and other people join, just as a result of you being an agency owner, we're going to pay you compensation through 7 degrees. Okay. So why 7 degrees? Well, that's a good question. For those of you that are maybe a little bit older, when I was in high school, I'm 55 now, so that gives you an idea of how long ago high school was. I remember when I was in high school, there was an actor in Hollywood named Kevin Bacon. I guess he's still an actor and still in Hollywood, but he was a younger person then. He starred in Footloose and really was super popular and made his name in Footloose. Um, and there was a thing going around the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon and how every person could find out they were connected to Kevin Bacon within 7 degrees. Every person on Earth could be connected to Kevin Bacon within 7 degrees. And even though that was about Kevin Bacon and that was then, there's been studies since that says we're all connected within 7 degrees of one another. That we could take everybody on this call and I could go through who I know that knows someone that knows someone, and within 7 people, I would find I have a connection to every one of you on here. And so we thought if we're all connected through 7 degrees, then it would be appropriate to pay 7 degrees because that is where we create those connections. So as an agency owner, you would earn 20% on the very first person that you brought into the business. You'd earn 2% on if they brought a person in, and 1.3% if they brought a person in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You don't have to do anything to do this. They don't have to do anything to do this. This is just everybody gets to come in and earn this right off the top.
Bruce,
Claudia,
we have a
yeah,
question from Claudia.
I love it.
Hello, Bruce. Hello, Milan. Yes, let me see if I understood correctly this. If I have 4 people that are my first degree, okay? So
Yes.
in the first line, whatever they sell, I'm gonna get 20% of the commission that they made.
Not quite. So you're going down the right path, Claudia. Give me 1 second and I'll explain that 20% in a little bit more detail, okay? So
Oh, thank
so
you. I'm
you
sorry.
are you are going to earn 20% of their eligible override. And I'll explain what that means by eligible override. It's not 20% of their street because they get 100% of their street. But of the eligible compensation, you're going to get 20% of. So before I get to that though, I want to hit just one other concept that we're going to talk about. And so everybody earns this. The second you join, you have the rights to this compensation. Now, if you help people to grow and become successful, when you have between 5 and 7 people on your first degree that all have produced at least $50,000 in the last 6 months in production, then you're going to earn more. So you're still going to earn the 20% because you just get that automatically, but then you're also going to earn another 20% on anybody that they bring in. So this is where the compensation starts to get really powerful if you're even more successful in helping people grow and become successful in their business. And now you have between 8 and 11 people, you have what we call a premier agency. And a premier agency now gets to unlock the compensation on people 3 degrees away from you. So you're getting the 20% from your first degree because you're an agency owner and you automatically get that. You'd get the 2% on your second degree, but if you're a prime agency, you also get another 20%. So you're actually getting 22% on your prime agency. Now,
Bruce, a common question on this diagram that we've had from other agents is why does first degree in this example say 0%?
And that's a great question, and it's because that first degree is actually being paid here.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. So you get this automatically without doing anything, and when you help people grow, then you start earning in addition to. So the awesome thing about our compensation plan is it's what I call a plus plan. Everything is this plus this, not this or this. Right? So you're always getting this, and then when you get to this, you get this plus. So you're getting your 20% plus you're getting 20% plus 2%. Because remember, you're getting your 2% over here automatically. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Now, what does this, let's go to Claudia's question. So what is all this based on? Percentages are great, but what's this all based on? Well, I took just a standard policy. On average, our agents sell about $150,000 policy when they sell one. And if you were an agent selling that policy and you sold a policy that had a street commission of 7%, your commission would be $10,500 that you would make for selling that policy. Now, annuity.com gets an override when you sell that policy. And on this particular policy, let's assume that our net override was 2%. Now, this is an important term that you're going to want to remember. We call the net override company dollar. The reason we call it company dollar is because this is the dollars the company gets. See, as an accountant, I'm not very creative. So we just call it what it is. So company dollar is the money that the company receives from the sale of this annuity. Now, what we've committed is that we will pay 50% of that company dollar into our agency builder program. So Claudia, this goes back to your question of your 20%, what's that paid on? So if in this particular example, if we got 2% or $3,000 for the sale of that policy, we would drop $1,500 or 50% of that into our agency builder program. And then the agent who recruited that person would get their 20% for that first degree. And so what you would make, Claudia, if you recruited me and I was the one that sold this policy, you would make $300 because you would get your 20% of 1,500. Does that make sense? Claudia's giving me a thumbs up. Any other questions on how that works? So I've already kind of explained, what does the next team member get? Let's assume that Milan was the person who recruited Claudia, and Claudia recruited me, and I sold this policy. Claudia is going to make $300. What does Milan make as the person who's recruited Claudia? Well, if we go back here, Milan's going to get 2% just because she joined annuity.com. And if Milan has 5 to 7 active people, active Claudias on her front line, then she's going to get 20% of that herself. So she's going to earn 22% of that $1,500 for herself. Okay? So let's give her some real world examples of how this works, because this is a lot of
Numbers.
percentages and things that are thrown in here. So if you're an agent and you just said, I think I can do one annuity a month like this. I can do a $150,000 annuity once a month, and I can teach my team to do the same thing. Okay? So your street commission, if you just sold one every month, would be $126,000. If you had 6 agents on your first degree, so you would fit in this prime agency example right here, right? Because you'd have 6, so you have more than 5, less than 7. Then what would happen is, and there were 6 agents on your second degree, you'd earn $21,000 off of your first degree agents and $23,000 off of your second degree agents. Okay? So your annual compensation for the year would be $171,000 if you just sold one annuity a month and you taught other people to do the same. So do you see how this helps us create leverage? Right? Because before you were just selling one annuity and what you were getting is your $126,000. Now you're still selling your one annuity, but because you're investing in and helping other people, you are earning commissions off of their production. Okay, so as you support them and help them be more successful, there's more money here. And now instead of 126,000, you've earned 171. Now, what happens if you keep doing this? You just keep helping people, and over time you're more and more successful at it. Let's say that maybe 3 years down the line, you're still doing your one annuity a month and you're teaching everybody to do the same. So you've got now 10 agents on your front line and 100. Whoa, that went backwards. 100 agents on your next line. Now you can see the leverage really start to kick in. Instead of 171, you're making $396,000 off of this second degree, and your total income is $558,000. Does that make sense? So the more you help people, in addition to doing your own production, the more successful you can become, and the more you can avoid the things that I dislike so much. Now you can go on vacation and you don't have to worry about your own production for a month, and your team is producing and you're still making money. Okay? So this obviously goes on 7 degrees. And if you go to the next level, you're a prestige agency, you've helped 12 to 15 people now, and now you've unlocked compensation down 4 degrees. We also show this like this. You might see this chart. So this is basically showing exactly the same thing in just a single chart form that shows by the time you have been at this a few years, you've unlocked and helped 30 people become frontline producers, and you've unlocked all 7 degrees. Now, I will just say this doesn't happen overnight. Milan and I both have tremendous experience watching people create these kinds of organizations. I remember about 15 years ago, I sat with a woman from Kansas who was brand new to this concept, didn't know anything about it. But her husband had just lost his job and she was a little bit desperate. And I walked through with her a presentation very much like this and helped her understand what she could do. And she's like, okay, Bruce, well, what do I need to do? And I said, you just need to be consistent about building this team. So sometimes in our mindset as agents, all we're thinking about is where am I going to get my next client? Where am I going to get my next lead? Where am I going to get my next presentation? How am I going to do my next fact finder? To really take advantage of the agency builder program, you actually have to shift your mindset a little bit. And you have to start thinking about who can I introduce this opportunity to, in addition to what you're already doing. So we don't want, it's really important that you don't stop doing your production. Because if nobody produces, there's no money in the program, right? So it's really important that you're still thinking about where am I going to get my next client? How am I going to do my next fact finder? But what you should be adding to your thought process is who can I introduce annuity.com to, and how can I help them be successful? And as you start introducing those thoughts into your mind, then you'll start, it's amazing how the mind works and how it finds solutions to whatever question you ask it. So if you ask your mind each morning, who could I introduce this to? It's amazing how your mind's going to be like, well, you should talk to this person or you should talk to that person. And then it's up to you to follow through on those things. Okay. So that's the agency builder program. Any questions on that before I jump over to the stock program? Okay, we'll come back to that if you have questions. So the other way to create leverage is through stock awards. And every time you produce, you're working towards earning stock in annuity.com. And this is just one of the most interesting and powerful things. We love when agents become shareholders. And if you've ever been in an IMO or FMO before, ask yourself this question, how often did the executive management pull you into a meeting and give you an accountability of what they'd accomplished and what their plans were for the next year and how they were going to execute those plans? I would guess the answer is never. Because most companies don't feel like they have that responsibility to you as an agent to tell you what their marketing plans are, how successful they've been at achieving their goals, and what they're doing. But when you become a shareholder, we have a responsibility to keep you up to date on those kinds of things. And it is just absolutely awesome when our agents are in our shareholder meetings and they get to ask questions and they get to see a vision of where we're going and what we're doing and what we're executing on. The biggest thing here, though, is again this concept of leverage. That by owning stock, you're creating another leverage point in your life where you're receiving something that can create tremendous value for you without you having to do anything directly to make that happen. And that's the power of our stock award program. When you earn stock, that stock, hopefully, if we do our job right, is going to become more and more valuable over time. What could that grow to be? Well, if $15,000 worth of stock today in 3 years could be worth $150,000. If we're really successful at what we do and we match eXp Realty and what they did in the market, that $15,000 worth of stock could be worth 1.5 million. If we're just knock it out of the park successful and we become like Primerica, that $15,000 of stock could be worth $5 million. And this is something that you can get just by doing the job that you already do, just by already producing. Now, I will make one point of note that I think is really important here. It's not just straight production. You'll notice from this slide, there is a company dollar component to this production. And we added that because we realized that someone can just sell a lot of MIGA products that don't actually produce a ton of value into the compensation, into the agency builder program, or into the company, and achieve stock. And obviously, we want the people who are achieving stock to be a result of the benefits that they're actually helping the company grow. And so we added the company dollar component. So it's $1 million in production and at least $10,000 in company dollar, or $3 million and 30, or $5 million and $50,000 in company dollar production. Okay. Any questions about stock ownership? Okay. Let's talk about a couple of other details really quick. The way we make all of this work is through an LOA model. That is sometimes scary to people. Of an LOA model basically means that the carrier is going to pay us all the commissions, including your street commission, and we're going to turn around and pay those back to you. We have to do that so that we can track the orders and we can track the commissions and we can make sure that everything follows through, and the production and the stock and everything else. We are very judicious about your street dollars, and we do not hold on to those. So we pay commissions every single day. As we receive street commissions, we turn around and pay those street commissions right back out to you, and you can use those however you would like. The agency builder program is paid on a monthly basis. So at the end of the month, we then tally up all the orders that have come in through the month and all the policies that have been placed. We calculate all the commissions through all the degrees, and then we pay that out on the 15th of each month. Okay. I think I'll pause there for just a second. Any questions about agency builder, stock, leverage, focus? Okay. Well, I just have one other key point. I have, and I welcome Milan to jump in here with anything that I've missed, because she has as much or more experience than I do on all of these things. I have had the opportunity to help people like the friend from Kansas that I talked about, to build organizations like this and to help them be successful. I have watched people who are really, really good at it, and I've watched people who are really, really bad at it. Sometimes I'm surprised. Sometimes the people who I think are going to be really, really good at it are really, really bad at it. And sometimes the people who I think are going to be really, really bad at it are really, really good at it. But there's one principle that I think has been consistent for me over watching lots of people try to do that, and that is this principle. Consistency of effort is the key to success. Like I say, as an agent, you have to change your mindset a little bit. You have to start thinking every day, How do I, getting this leverage does not just automatically happen because we have a compensation plan. You have to be purposeful in building this. And so you have to do something on a daily basis. And it doesn't mean you have to be exceptional. I mean, Chris Harding is on this call and has recruited over 100 people in the last 2 months to his team. You don't have to be Chris Harding to take advantage of this compensation plan and to be really, really successful at it. What you do have to do is, I love this point. At a very minimum, you got to be at a level that even on a bad day, you're getting points on the board. Even on a bad day, you're building your team, you're supporting your team, you're helping your team to be successful in the compensation plan. So, so this does require a change of thinking. It does require moving from I'm just in charge of my own personal world and my own personal production to thinking, who can I introduce this concept to and how can I support them? And the better you become at those two things on a daily basis, the more successful your team will become and the bigger it will grow. I've seen people, and Milan is a testament of this, that over years grow teams to the tune of 50, 60, 70, 100,000 people on their team. Can you imagine? We showed, if I go back to this slide, where was it? We showed what happens if you have 100 agents on your second degree. What would happen if there were 1,000 agents on your seventh degree? What would happen if there were 50,000 agents and all of them were just producing a little? I've seen, and Milan has seen, people make checks that are in the millions of dollars, not hundreds of thousands of dollars, as a result of the kind of leverage that you can create. But it takes consistency and it takes doing things a little differently than what you've done in the past. So with that, that's my thoughts on this. Milan, any grand wisdom you can add?
Well, I think, it's an interesting group we have today, and I just am so glad that you're here and you're just starting to explore this. When I first was introduced to an opportunity like this to build an agency, I think the questions on my mind were, well, can I do this? And is it going to be worth it? And I think we all asked that question, but I actually stayed in that posture and that mindset with every conversation I had. Meaning, I was sitting next to somebody and we were looking at this together and we're saying, can we do this? Will it be worth it? And as we answered that question together over time, the team literally grew from that foundation. I'll say that what I like about what we're doing the most is that we're building it on what I call trust and transparency. So, in an industry and a profession in the past where there were back end deals and compensation wasn't clear and what was available was could change from one day to the next. I mean, to have all of that available to agents upfront, clearly published, and so that you're really treated like a partner from the beginning is really important for, I think, those two things, trust and transparency. And to build an agency from that is foundational. So the only other thing I want to share with you about this, can I do this and is it worth it? How I started this was with 5 things in mind, and I want to plant this seed as we kind of leave this time together. First question I asked is, who are these people? Like, if I wanted to build an agency, is it just 5 people? For me, the answer was I wanted to work with women like me. So I want you to think, if I were to create a year from now, we were to sit down on this call and hear your story, what would this agency look like? Who would these people be that you would surround yourself with? Like-minded people, perhaps. Or maybe you would seek an agency of highly qualified, seasoned agents, or an agency that, you've seen colleagues of yours struggle in the Medicare profession, wanting to move in and expand their role and value to their clients. Whatever it is, first decide who they are, because it's going to have some impact on who you attract and who shows up. It's just interesting how that works. The second question is, what is your vision for this? What do you want for yourself and for them, these people that you surround yourself with? Even if you can just articulate it in a few words, like, what do you want to create for them and for yourself that really matters to you and you hope matters to them as well? Because that's going to help you surround yourself with those people. So again, in a year, if we're sitting down and talking about what is it about your agency, what's the vision you guys hold together? What are you doing together for each other and with each other and for your clients? And then the third thing, so there's only five. The third thing is, this might seem a little strange, but what's holding you back right now from doing this? List everything that's holding you back from considering the idea of building an agency. Is there anything you feel like you have to apologize for? Well, I've never done it before, or I don't know anything about the training programs, or whatever it is that you think is missing or holding you back, write that down. It's going to help you be transparent. And I think the last two are, what's the invitation like? So for me, when I began, I just literally reached out to a few people, whether I knew them well or just, casually, professionally. These were people that kind of met that, who do I want to surround myself with? And I'm like, I promised myself that I wouldn't let this day go by without connecting with you. That's how I started. And I might say things like, I've been exploring a business idea. Or I wrote these down so I could just kind of share them with you. I want to bring a group of like-minded women together. That might have been my invitation. Would you be open to a quick conversation? I thought of you because, right? Because I've noticed this about you. Would you be open to a quick conversation? That was my initial, just little invitation to people. Now, I know there's lots of ways to do this. You can run ads, you can do all kinds of things to attract people, but I really just focused on who do I want to surround myself with, and let me start those conversations. Let me just get good at that exploration and discovery with these people. And then the fifth thing is just, what's the conversation like once you're together? And I would say things like, thanks for taking this time. If nothing else, my hope is, or my goal is, that we leave this conversation feeling like we've reconnected with each other. Something simple. Keep it simple. And then I would tell them why I would be interested in, why I thought of them. And I would paint the vision. So I just want to kind of start to frame what that conversation is like. And when you're in that conversation with people, here's what makes it so wonderful. You think I'm recruiting or I'm sponsoring. No, what you're doing is you're sitting next to them, looking at what Annuity.com is creating and saying, what could we build together? Be that trusted advisor looking at it together, not across, sitting across the table pitching a program, right? Or pitching values and benefits and all those kinds of things like we typically do in sales. I would say shift that posture and now become the person exploring with them what's possible here. I mean, when I started my team, we didn't have training, zero. We could barely process an application. I mean, it was just a bit of a hot mess. But those were some of the things I was afraid of. So those were in the conversation. I said, listen, I've never done this before. We don't have training yet. Now, in our case, we've got all that built. But I'm just sharing that in the conversation, what builds trust and transparency is that part of that conversation. I'm not sure where we can go, but if I know I surround myself with the right people like you, I think we can build something really significant, part of the conversation. So I just wanted to share that, Bruce, because I think I'd love for the group that's here to leave this compensation call where we talk about facts and figures and really start thinking, what's possible for me? Who are these people and what would it look like a year from now if I really started taking action towards this? Because I will tell you that when I didn't think this in the beginning, 5 years into this, and as Bruce said, I probably personally mentored over 17 years, maybe about 125 people. I mean, my goal was a minimum of 12 a year that were working and growing that I was mentoring. But that turned into 86,000 over that time. Crazy. Never imagined that would happen. And so I just want to kind of plant the seed for you of that. And as I told Bruce, 5 years into this, when I looked back at that 5 years, and it was work, There is nothing I could have done that would have netted the result I had received in return for that effort. There's no real estate I could have developed. There's no annuity I could have bought. There's no other business I actually could have started, as I watched many of my friends do that, that would have netted me the income, the security, the lifetime impact as I looked at the lives of the people that I work with that I had gained in that work and that effort. And you can't see it up front, but I'll tell you 5 years later, I was like, wow, there is nothing else I could have done in this time in my life that would have netted the same. And I see Chris nodding his head. So I'm going to give you just here's somebody that just literally dove into this head on. Didn't have, they had a little bit of experience, I would say, Chris, but these are different conversations you're having now. That's kept it really simple and personal to the people he's talking with. And the net result is, you know, I don't know the number today, but I've been watching Chris, top sponsoring, agency building individual for the last 3 months in a row. So you just went and did it, Chris. Congrats on that.
Yeah, I want to. So I hope you took some notes, everybody, on those things that Milan just laid out, because that framework of 5 things is gold for what you're trying to do. I want to. She made one small comment at the very end that I think is the most important comment of all. And you notice that she said, I personally mentored about 125 people by personally mentoring 125 over her entire 10, 15 years. Not 125 a month, not 125 a year. She personally mentored 125 that turned into 85,000. There's a principle here of small things done really, really well and really, really personally create grand results. And sometimes we can fall into the trap of, oh, I need to recruit 160 people, when what we really need to do is what Milan talked about. Sit down, personally connect with someone, invest in them, invest in them and their relationship. No matter what that gives you, invest in them. To how can you improve their life? How can you make their life better? How can you invest in them? And if you do that well, and you're honest and transparent about it, one of the other principles that she talked about in there that I just want to call out is she didn't walk into this being like, hey, follow me, I know exactly what I'm doing, I will lead you to the promised land. That was not her message. What was her message? I'm not really sure what I'm doing, I would like to do it with you, I think there's a real opportunity here. We're going to figure it out together. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Transparency about what she didn't know. And people trust you far more if you'll sit down and personally invest in them and be transparent about them, about your own insecurities, about what you're trying to do, and really invest. 125 people, because she did that with them, guess what those people did? They did the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? They went out and started personally investing in their 125. And when she had 125 that each went and got 125, can you see how that can turn into 85,000? But if she would have spread herself too thin and said, I need to invest in 10,000 people and I need to figure out how to communicate with 10,000 people and all these things, she never would have created the personal connection that caused someone else to go create the personal connection that created the duplication that created the large team. Small things done exceptionally well create great results.
Thank you, Bruce.
Okay. I think you guys have some awesome food to go work from here, to go build with. And I think the last thing we'll say is we are here to help. So you are welcome we want to personally invest in you, and help you. So don't be afraid to reach out to us, to ask for your help, to help us ask questions about challenges that you're facing, and we will leverage all of our experience to your benefit. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Have a great week, everyone.